Hello, welcome to Verbling. Hi there, I'm teacher Oakley. And once again, we are going to have a conversation class about an American state. United States, of course, is made up of 50 states. Uh, and I frequently, well, once a week or so, I talk about one of the United States states. Unlike many countries, United States states each has their own laws regarding taxes. Many of the less important laws, I don't know, about more minor crimes and civil civil statutes, things like I don't know, building contracts, where you get your water, things like that, and left up to each state. So the states are all quite different. Um, Today, we're going to be looking at Missouri, and there's some very interesting things about the state, notably the history is quite unique, actually. And it's an interesting place. I've been there. I'd love to share with you my experiences about visiting Missouri. In any case, Missouri is quite interesting. First of all, as far as population in the United States, the actual center of population is actually in Missouri. Missouri is really, really, really central United States. It is the centralist you can get. As far as population, geographically, it is in the exact center of the United States. Okay, all right, we're gonna just have a conversation. I'll ask you about what you know or what you can guess about Missouri, and we'll talk about some of the aspects that Missouri is famous for. Well, there are many, and we can talk about them. For example, the largest brewery in the United States is located in St. Louis. Budweiser started in St. Louis, Missouri. Also, it has some of the most colorful history involving cowboys and outlaws, actually. And I would love to chat with you about what you know about American West legends and history, because Missouri plays a very big part. Excuse me. And also, we can talk extreme weather, because Missouri has it. It's another unique thing about Missouri is I keep calling it Missouri, but actually, even in the state itself, it has two pronunciations. So even the people from Missouri sometimes call it Missouri. It's very interesting, and people all around the United States, Missouri, Missouri. You're going to hear many pronunciations. No one can decide what is the name of this state, even the people who live in the state. Hello, Heidi.
Hello, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you as well. How was your weekend?
Weekend, it's already finished now.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Yeah.
I paid a lot of things, insurance or every surprise
Oh,
with credit card. Then before I
Oh my goodness.
concentrated all point to the marriage point, I traveled a lot. But recently my condition is not good. Health condition has some problem.
Mm.
So I changed my mind. I got a point. Shopping. It's changed to some coupon money
Uh-huh. Okay.
from card company. I changed money. I received quite a big amount.
Oh, nice. Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
you're
yeah.
gonna go on a shopping spree.
Yes, now I'm thinking about something to buy something.
Oh, okay.
For me, for me.
Wonderful. Great. Treat yourself. Terrific. Okay. We're going to talk today about Missouri. Have you ever heard of Missouri?
Yeah, I saw some that name, some novels or something,
Hmm?
or
Yeah.
some comedy or something. I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, well, it's an interesting state. Do you know where, again, you can say Missouri, Missouri,
Missouri.
Missouri,
I don't
even
know. Missouri.
you can say whatever you want because Americans do. Even the people in the state. Actually, it's common for politicians to say, here in Missouri, the people of Missouri, they'll change
Oh,
pronunciation in order to appeal to a wider audience. So,
that place is a little sad. No
a little
seashore.
sad. No seashore. Well, that's true.
No.
It is a landlocked state, as a
Yeah.
matter of fact. Okay.
Inland.
All right. So, yeah, when we have a country or a state or an area which has borders no ocean or seas, we say
Uh,
it's a landlocked.
and maybe mountainous place. Mountainous
No.
place. No?
Actually, no.
No?
Missouri's in, it's in the plains, it's in the central plains. It's about as middle of America as you can get. It's east of the Rockies, so there's the highest mountain is only like 500 meters.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's not even really a mountain. It's sort of a plateau.
Plateau.
You wouldn't even know you're on a mountain if you're standing on it, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So no, not much for mountains in Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
Let me welcome Carmen. Hi, Carmen.
Hi, Oakley. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you doing?
I'm fine. I'm searching some information about Missouri because honestly, I don't have any idea about that state.
Okay. Uh, yeah, all right. Well, we're going to talk about it as well as some interesting aspects. See what you guys know. So you know nothing much about it, huh? Okay. Uh, hello, Hussein.
Hello, Oakley. How are you?
Okay. How are you today?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Welcome to the class. How
Thank
about
you.
you? How about you, Hussein? Do you know anything about Missouri?
Okay, I don't know. I really don't know about it.
It's okay.
I have never been there, and maybe I have heard before, but I don't know much about it.
Well, that's okay. Americans don't know
Maybe,
much about it either.
yeah. You know, I just know about a bit Washington, maybe New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Well, Missouri is pretty much quintessential, the perfect example of Midwestern America. It is right in the middle of the country. It is landlocked, as Heidi pointed out. There's no access to the ocean. But on the other hand, although it has no ocean or no sea or even any of the Great Lakes, what it does have, it has actually in it or bordering it are the three largest rivers in the United States, which, of course, what is the largest river in the United States? Is anybody? Does anybody know that?
Mississippi?
Yes. Mississippi. Everybody learns to spell that growing up in America. Yes, the Mississippi River is the eastern boundary of the Missouri. The Missouri River is the second largest river, actually, and that goes through the middle of the state, pretty much, and flows into the Mississippi. And then the Ohio River is enters into the Mississippi on the corner of Missouri, which is the third largest river. So it does have rivers, though it has no oceans or major bodies of water. It's got rivers, that's for sure. So as a result, it does flood frequently along these rivers. These rivers flood regularly in the springtime, different areas. Very normal. And speaking of weather and floods, Heidi, if I'm thinking Missouri, I'm thinking of something. What's that?
I don't know about Missouri.
About weather. Can you
Weather.
take a guess?
Inland
Knowing.
and the high place, like
Well,
Plateau. So maybe not too hot.
Actually, Missouri has strangely, it's in the middle of the country, and it has a tendency to get the worst of the southern heat.
Mm-hmm.
Heat in the summer, and humidity, and when the jet stream dips down, it gets extremely cold too. So Missouri has huge differences in weather because it's kind of where two jet streams meet a lot.
Mm.
Also, because it's where two jet streams meet a lot, and they're highs crashing into lows all the time. High front or high pressure weather system and low pressure weather system crashing into each other all the time.
Mm-hmm. Lot of storm, like
Yes.
okay, like Japan.
It has a lot of storms. Furthermore, it has a lot of tornadoes.
Yeah, the Oz Wizard. It wasn't that in Kansas, like or not? Maybe I'm wrong. It was Arkansas.
First of all, it's Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Yeah. Arkansas is the southern border of Missouri, actually. So they're very close.
Uh-huh.
They share a border. So lots of storms and tornadoes in Arkansas, as well as Tennessee and Kansas, which are border on the eastern side. Actually, Missouri borders 8 states. Trivia, there are no states in the United States that border more than 8 states. I believe there are 2 states that border 8 states. Missouri's one of them. I forget what the other one is, actually. Maybe Tennessee. In any case, yeah, it's in that area. It's in that area where they have a lot of tornadoes. But yes, Arkansas, that's included in that area. So lots of tornadoes, lots of violent storms, very common. And blizzards in the winter, and yeah, heat in the summer. Yay, lots of fun. Anyway, okay. Missouri, okay. Missouri, again with a pronunciation. Nobody knows how to pronounce it. It has a state motto, or actually nickname, I should say. Does anybody know what the nickname is for Missouri? Any idea? It's kind of a very unique nickname. Okay, it is known as the Show Me State. Why? The show me state. What do you think that means if you had to guess?
Show me.
Yeah, the show me state. Hussein, what do you think that means?
Show me. I don't know, when I think like show me, maybe.
Yeah, but
Uh,
why would they have that as a nickname?
Show me state. I don't know.
No idea?
No idea really. Show me. I don't know.
Heidi,
Maybe they have really good products or something that they can show to other people, or there are really beautiful girls, maybe.
No. No, that's definitely not it. Heidi.
You are brave.
Show me your what?
Brave.
Brave. Good guess. That's a very good guess. But no, that's not it. Carmen,
Dangerous place.
dangerous? No.
There are many American wolves or American lions.
No, not really. Not so much. Not so many. This is a plain state, so the animals and the wildlife are like prairie dogs. There used to be a lot of buffalo, of course, before most of them were killed. They have deer. I don't think they have bear. They don't have cougars or mountain lions. Badgers. They have rabbits, deer. Relatively benign, friendly creatures. They have rattlesnakes.
Oh, snakes. Wow.
Yeah. Carmen, any idea why they would be called the show me state?
Maybe show me because I don't know it. Show me because it's a completely unknown place. I don't know it.
Okay, it's nicknamed the show me state because the people have a reputation. This has to do with the culture of the people. The people don't believe anything. Okay. They distrust everyone. They're highly skeptical, and this is a ingrained part of their culture. They're very proud of this. They name themselves the show me state. Show me. I don't believe you until you can show it to me. Which actually explains a lot about their culture and their history, actually. The show me state, they would not, they tend to not, and haven't since they've been a state for 150 years, 200 years. They do not believe politicians. They're just highly skeptical. They don't want to, they're like the state that uses the internet to make purchases the least, because they can't see it, they ain't gonna buy it. Because it's not there. It doesn't exist unless they can see it with their own eyes. That's what it means, the show me state.
Why they construct such a personality?
Well, I don't know, but I don't know if it's the symptom or the disease, to tell you the truth, but let me explain a little bit about their history. First of all, the Missouri state was part of the Louisiana Purchase. Does anybody know what that is? Louisiana Purchase.
Yeah, very famous for jazz, blues.
The Napoleon sell it to Americans?
You got it. That's it exactly. He sold an enormously huge amount of land to the Americans, to the American government. And Missouri was part of the northern part of that. A huge piece of land. I don't know, a third of the United States, what is now America. Yeah, and that was the northern part, and so people didn't even really think it existed. So when the government started giving them land grants in Missouri, they didn't think it was real. So many of them didn't go for a long time. Then it started to be settled, and they couldn't make up their mind. All right, here you go. in Missouri, some of them say they live in Missouri. Some say Missouri, Missouri. They pronounce phonetics of this simple three-syllable word, Missouri. Maybe they pronounce it with two syllables. They stress different syllables, different pronunciation. The people that live in the state have not agreed on a pronunciation for the name of their state. Okay. They could not decide if they wanted to be a Southern Confederate slavery state or if they wanted to be a Northern Yankee industrial state. They could not make up their minds. And they still couldn't. Into the Civil War. Actually, although pretty much every other state that existed at that time chose a side and decided to be Northern or Southern, make their alliance, Missouri never could make up its mind. They can't make up their mind how to pronounce their state. This is why they're the show me state, because they just won't believe anything. And as a result, Missouri became like guerrilla warfare in the Civil War, where you may have seen movies or something, the North marching and their big group and the South marching, and then they all point guns at each other and shoot at each other. Not in Missouri. Missouri was just two or three neighbors shooting two or three neighbors from the bushes. Basically total guerrilla warfare on both sides, from both on both sides, and it was total confusion, just utter absolute confusion, not unlike Syria is today. Who knows who's fighting who? Many factions and just anarchy, actually, is what Missouri was.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, excuse me, sorry for interrupt you, but I have this doubt. You said before that someone bought some land to someone, and that's not clear to me. So, what was that land belonging to before?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, Napoleon Hussein is correct. So it was French. From Louisiana, the city of New Orleans was a very French city for many, many years, hundreds of years. New Orleans is interesting. It was Spanish, then it was French for like 200 years before it was ever American. And France actually owned a huge chunk of what is the United States and Canada, actually. Yeah, so France sold it to United States government. Louisiana Purchase, it's called.
Okay,
Louisiana.
understood.
Even though the state of Louisiana is much smaller than the whole purchase. The whole purchase was about 8 states.
It was a French colony, and then they sold it to America.
Correct. That's right.
Yeah, I have a friend in Louisiana. His parent is teaching French.
Yeah, many people still speak French in Louisiana, especially.
But the French is different from the French in Europe.
Yes, it is. It's Arcadian French.
Like hate people speak French, the same French.
Yeah, it's actually, if you, well, I don't know. It can be. You can argue this point, and I don't know. But some people are of the opinion that it's an actual older, purer form of French than is now spoken in France. Since the Huguenots basically escaped religious persecution in France, went to Arcadia, which is actually in Canada. They got kicked out of there by the British, and they moved down to New Orleans. It's a very interesting history. In parts of Louisiana, French is the primary language. English is totally a second language. Still, interestingly enough.
Oakley, do they have in Missouri this strong Southern accent?
That's a really good question. Because the confusion continues into today. Yeah, they could never make up their mind, and I don't believe they have made up their mind if they're a southern state or a northern state. And as a result, I guess you say they have a neutral accent, but if you're in the more southern part near Arkansas, Arkansas definitely has a southern accent, no question. Depends where you are in Missouri. Seriously, they still haven't made up their minds. The more northern part of the state tends to have a northern central accent, which is actually kind of Scandinavian influence. Lots of Germans and Norwegians and Finnish and Swedish settled in that area, in the north central plains. And then, of course, the South is the South. You have the heavy Southern accent in the United States. They're in the middle. Missouri is in the middle as you can get. It's in the middle geographically. It's in the middle as far as population. The center of population for the United States is, again, in Missouri. And they just can't make up their mind. That's part of, I think that's related to the show me state thing. An interesting thing, American mythology, I will call it mythology, although the people are real. Because after the Civil War, Missouri was basically anarchy. Just who knows what territory was what. Resulting from this, you had many basically gangs or families that controlled large areas that functioned as their own governments, basically. Almost like tribal leaders.
Mainly how they make money for their life. Yeah.
Oh, they robbed trains and stole cattle. For example, let me run some names by you. Have you guys ever heard of Frank and Jesse James? Have you ever heard of that? Those names?
Yeah, Jesse James. Yeah.
Jesse James. Yeah, right. All right. The Young Gang. A bunch of these guys were very famous. Famous criminals who got basically, even though they're criminals, outlaws, murderers, they became like heroes to Americans at that time, just after the Civil War. They were aggrandized, made by the media at the time. The largely northern Philadelphia, New York media made them seem like they were, they got good publicity, made them seem like they were modern day Robin Hoods. Oh, they were stealing from the rich, which they did. They robbed trains from the rich barons, railroad barons from the east. They robbed the train, and then they literally gave the money out to their community, who were very, very poor people, who were getting no support from the American government because they had never decided if they were Confederates or they were Northern or Southern. I mean, so there's some degree of truth to these kinds of legends involving these criminals and outlaws. Plus, the other thing that allowed them to get away with this was that Missouri was considered to be the gateway to the West. In fact, that's the other nickname it has, or it used to have, the gateway to the West. This is where East meets West. What do I mean by that? I mean cattle drives would come into Missouri to sell all of their cattle back, which would go back on the train to feed the much more large populations in the east. Wheat, all agriculture, and also mineral wealth, lead, silver, gold. Everything went through Missouri, basically, which is very strange. It was basically anarchy, but more wealth than anywhere else being transferred. So a weird place, confusing, crazy, definitely. So yeah, it a very confusing place and it's spawned or created lots of criminal elements that then moved out into the West. But yeah, Missouri was the gateway to the West. So big history of famous criminals coming from Missouri.
Oakley, Kansas City is inside Missouri, because I'm seeing in the map, it's just right in the border.
Yep. Well, here's another crazy thing about Missouri. Kansas City is one city, but it is. I don't really understand this myself, to be honest. It's very confusing. It's on the border. It's on the border, Kansas City and Missouri, and Kansas City, Kansas. All right. Well, where is it? It is in both places at the same time. So Kansas City is actually two cities. There's Kansas City, Missouri, and there's Kansas City, Kansas. But they're so intertwined that they're like one city. In fact, because each state has its own laws, and because they are so intertwined, one giant, well, not giant, but fairly large city right on the border, that they have to create their own separate set of laws, which is partly Missouri and partly Kansas. It's a very strange deal. Kansas City. Oddly, one of the capitals in the United States of the insurance industry, strangely enough. Another large company from Missouri is Monsanto. Do you know who Monsanto is?
Yeah, they put poison in the vegetables.
They put poison in the vegetables. Well, I seriously doubt that they look at it that way, but okay. Monsanto is that ginormous, huge, gargantuan agricultural business that, yeah, everything you can think of with that has chemicals and agriculture and genetics. All right, genetically modified foods, genetically modified seeds, fertilizer, pest control, anything you can conceive of that has to do with agriculture, especially agriculture and chemicals. Monsanto has its finger in, and they're in Missouri. That's their main office. It always has been since they started. And the company's been around a long time, actually, but only recently have they started poisoning us all. Yeah. Okay. Hey, let's talk about Monsanto, but I want to go back before I forget. I am very curious. When I was talking about Frank and Jesse James and famous cowboy outlaws, now I'm American, so this is a huge part of my culture. But I'm very curious, what do you guys know about, do you know any names? What do you, Hussein, do you think
Yeah.
American cowboys were, what is your perception of the American cowboy
Okay. Firstly,
ethos?
when I was a child, I have watched a lot of cowboy films, and I used to like watch on Sundays. There was always a movie about cowboys, and I used to like it a lot, and I still like it. But my perception of the cowboy was very different when I was a child, and now it's very different because I know the truth, I think, right now.
Ah,
Because when I was a child, I was thinking like they were very good people and they were like, heroes or something. I don't know, maybe it's
right.
like that. But and I was watching Red Kit. I don't know if you know that cartoon, Red Kit, Red Kit. I don't know if it has
I
the
don't know.
same name in your country. Yeah, it was a cartoon when I was a child.
Okay.
And it was a cover, and I used to like it a lot. But right now, I think like when I started to learn English, I realized that it comes from the word cow, and it's a kind of shepherd.
Okay.
Yeah. uh, right now, I think like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
And when I was a child, they were more like heroes to me. Yeah, and
Ah,
they
right.
were kind of really cool people. They were they were going everywhere and they hunt and they live like very crazy people. And I used to like it. I still like it, but I think my perception is a bit different right now toward those people. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was no doubt it was romanticized greatly.
Yeah, I
Basically,
know.
shepherds. Yeah, that's basically all they were. Shepherds who rode horses. Yeah. Right. Okay. Um, Witchien. Hello, Witchien.
Hi.
Again.
Hello.
Hi. Hello.
Uh,
Hey, we're talking about Missouri, especially cowboys and outlaws. What do you know about American cowboys, Witchian?
hmm, I don't know.
Nothing? Do you know anything
I'm
about?
seen. I have seen in the movie
Uh-huh.
cowboy, but I don't know what is really cowboy.
Okay. All right. There's no cultural idea in Thailand of what a cowboy is? Like a hero, a bad guy, a warrior, a farmer? No? Okay. Heidi, how about in Japan?
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah, before I
okay.
watched a Western movie a lot of times.
Yeah. Okay.
There are many cowboy movies or the dramas.
Sure.
They
Yeah.
are wearing tangalon hat,
Yep. 10-gallon hat.
tangalon
Yep.
hat, and always riding on horseback,
Oh
and
yeah.
then travels with a lot of cows.
Yep. Yep, ma'am. Yep. Okay.
Sometimes they needed to fight with the Native American.
Ah, okay. Fighting the Indians.
Yes.
Yeah.
My friend said you shouldn't say Indian. It confused with people who living in India. And now you
Yeah. Well.
say Native American.
Yeah. Politically correct. Your friend is politically correct, and I am not. Right. They needed to fight with the Native Americans. But when I watched cowboy movies as a child, they were cowboys and Indians. And when I played as an 8-year-old, we played cowboys and Indians. We did not play cowboys and Native Americans.
Yeah, we call them
Sorry.
Indian.
Historically, in reality, yes, okay, Native Americans, if we want to be politically correct. Yes, that's true. Uh, okay, which is interesting because, as a child, that's was my concept. The cowboys were always fighting Native American Indians, and Native American Indians were bloodthirsty savages, which really couldn't be more far from the truth, actually. Actually, the Europeans were the bloodthirsty savages, really. But I learned that later by reading and studying and so forth. But my perception as a child was that. Carmen, you have any? How do you perceive of cowboys and outlaws? Well, outlaws, stagecoach
Um,
robbers, and
from a totally romantic perspective, I guess, once you know the truth, once you actually realize what was the context historically and what actually happened with the Native um, Americans and were more or less all the injustice and everything, you kind of try to enjoy the fictional and romantic part of it. And I over here in Spain, I think everyone admits that the Hollywood did an amazing job with this kind of movies in a way. They actually portrayed this stereotypical picture of the tough guy struggling in a difficult land, in a kind of wild land that you have to civilize, like to put rules on.
mm-hmm.
And within that there I mean so many stories, fictional stories, movies, novels, so good about it that that yeah, one thing is the history, the reality, and another thing is the enjoyment you can get out of that fiction.
All right, yeah, okay. You have to view it with some duality. I mean, I do. Okay, my logical brain thinks, uh-oh, these guys were basically uncivilized. And cowboys were, basically shepherds on a horse. They weren't particularly good or bad or anything. And 95% of them never had a fight with Native American Indians. That wasn't necessary. It's all been romanticized, really. The real bad guys were not the cowboys. Those are hired hands. Those are farmers. They're really nobody. The bad guys, quite honestly, were the really kind of right-wing religious settlers who moved into areas and decided, let's kill all the Native Americans, and because God's on our side and we can do what we want. And really, these are the people that are never talked about in American movies, but really are the cowboys didn't do anything. They're riding around shepherding the cows, making sure
We
the
got
cows
you.
don't get hurt.
We got you.
Yeah, right. Anyway, it's interesting, the whole sort of legend. Okay. All right, we can talk about Monsanto. I want to bring up another famous company from St. Louis, Missouri. What a cool city. By the way, I've been there. A very good friend of mine lives there, is from there. So I've been to visit her a few times. I actually really like that city. I don't know why. I don't know, people are really friendly there, for one. Anybody will talk to you. Absolutely anybody will talk to you for no reason whatsoever. Um, Another big company, I mentioned insurance in Kansas City and Monsanto. Also, is anybody familiar with Anheuser-Busch Company? Anheuser-Busch. Anybody know that one? No. Really? Okay. Anheuser-Busch. That would be Budweiser. Does anybody know the brand name Budweiser?
Yeah, the beer.
Very
Yeah,
famous.
the beer. Good, basically American beer. Yeah. Anheuser-Busch brews Budweiser. What else? Busch beer, Pabst Blue Ribbon, which are basically real everyday Joe American beer. They sell a huge amount of it, an unbelievable amount. So before, recent in the 90s, there was a big emergence of small breweries. But before that, there were only like 6 kinds of beer in America, kind of like the Philippines here now. But in America, they've developed all these micro breweries, small breweries. So now there are hundreds and hundreds of breweries. But for a while, Anheuser-Busch it still is, an enormous company. Don't get me wrong. But St. Louis is where they started. So, does anybody know in St. Louis what is the most famous, really famous monument in America? Extremely famous monument in America. Does anybody know?
Statue of Liberty.
Statue of Liberty. No, they put that one in New York. They couldn't tow that one all the way to Missouri.
Missouri, I don't know.
Yeah, in Missouri. It's kind of cool thing, actually. It's in St. Louis. It's on the. I totally had this wrong until I went there and saw it. I totally thought something different. It's on the western bank of the Mississippi.
Lincoln statue?
Nope, that's in Washington, D.C.
Oh.
Rocky Mountain. They have a lot of famous president.
Oh yeah, that's in Dakotas. That's in. I always get that confused. Is it South Dakota or North Dakota?
No.
I always get that confused, but it's in the Dakotas. Nope. I am speaking of. All it is a huge arch.
Oh.
It's a metal arch, like a giant upside down U. It's called the Gateway Arch. It's to show you that you've reached the West. In the United States, maybe not the rest of the world, but in the United States, once you cross the Mississippi, for an American now, once you cross the Mississippi, if you're on the eastern side of the Mississippi, you're in the east. If you're on the western side of the Mississippi, you are in the West. Capital THEWEST. You're in the West. What Americans would consider the West, the East. As I said, Missouri is basically the gateway to the West. It was the launching point for all those people who went on to Washington State and California and Arizona and Oregon, wherever. All those wagon trains that you see in those cowboy movies, they started in Missouri for the most part. So this big giant arch, I don't know what's so cool about it, honestly. I've seen it in person. I've touched it. One thing that's cool, I really enjoy the fact that you can walk up and touch it physically. They don't have a rope around it. You can, which is normal. Every other monument you ever see, you can't actually physically touch it. But anyway, this giant arch, first of all, it is huge. It's really impressive when you see it in person. It's really cool looking. I don't know what it is. Aesthetically, I never thought about it at all until I went and actually saw it, and now I will never forget it. I don't know why. It's just really cool. It fits. I don't know why, but it fits. It fits St. Louis. It fits Missouri. It fits America. It fits the whole idea of da 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 da. You have crossed the bridge. You are now in the West. I don't know what it is, but anyway, I thought it was really cool when I was there. Uh, okay. Uh, I have been to Missouri traveling and visiting. Do you have any questions for me? Does anybody open questions? What question do you have about Missouri, Carmen?
Is it boring, Oakley?
Is it boring? Well, I was mostly in St. Louis. As I told you, my friend lives in St. Louis. St. Louis actually has a lot of universities and a very high population of young people, which in America translates to lots of nightclubs and bars and activities and coffee houses and lots of different events going on all the time. So I was definitely not bored when I was there. And my friend's a native, so she's very social, extremely social. So I was far from bored.
It's not like New Hampshire then.
It's not like New Hampshire. No, there's a lot more going on. Now, that's in St. Louis. I had to bring some friends of mine to Kansas City. So I drove across the entire state and back, drove to Kansas and then drove back. Very boring. It's just flat, lots of wheat, huge empty fields, very rural, pastoral farms. So I suspect it's extremely boring. Yeah. Actually, my best friend here in the Philippines is from Missouri, just outside Springfield. And I don't know. People never think where they're from is boring. But he talks to me about his childhood. It's boring. Sounds boring to me. But anyway, St. Louis is a fun town. It really is. On the other side, Kansas City is a weird town. I don't know how to explain it. I really don't know how to explain it. It's half drug addicts and gangs, and the other half is very religious people. The weirdest town I've ever. I couldn't wait to get out of there. Actually, it freaked me out. But for both reasons, I don't like gangs, and I don't like ultra-right religious people who, try to actually preach to you while you're parking your car. No, thank you. I don't like gangs holding a gun on me while I try to park my car. And the two of them together is just too weird for me to handle. I'm leaving town. I did not stay there long at all. A couple hours, and out of here. It's a weird place. It really is. They have a couple great. They have major. Kansas City Chiefs, American football. They have a great baseball team. St. Louis has a wonderful baseball team. And football, well, no, not a football team anymore. Anyway, they have major sports teams. They're major cities. But Kansas City and St. Louis are like east and west, from slightly north and south, but right across from each other. So you have the whole southern and northern half. They bisect the state. And then another fairly big city, Columbia, in the middle. But that's it. It's like this one highway. That's the city, and that's the state. And then the northern half and the southern half is just very rural countryside. So fun to pass through. Spend a couple days in St. Louis. I wouldn't recommend a 2-week vacation, honestly. Okay. Any other questions about Missouri that I might be able to answer for you? I experienced a tornado in Missouri, which was not fun. You definitely don't want to do that. Do not put that on your list of things to do. Keep that off your bucket list. It's not worth it. Definitely not. Yeah.
Tourist spot.
What's that?
Tourist spot.
Tourist spot. Basically, St. Louis is it. As far as I'm concerned, St. Louis is basically it. And St. Louis is worth checking out, actually. It's a great city. Other than that, there are of course, there are the rivers. All right. If rivers are your thing, you can do like a paddle wheel boat tour up the Missouri River, up the Mississippi or the Missouri River. Oh, by the way, another famous person from Missouri is, of course, Mark Twain.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Samuel Clemens is from Missouri. He has a lot of his stories are based in Missouri, actually. Yeah, as far as tourism, I don't know really what you would.
Because you said
taking a
there are
steep
a lot
boat.
of tornadoes and the storms.
Yeah,
and
you could
flying,
do that if you wanted.
not attractive.
You could go involve yourself in a tornado. I don't think you'd want to do that, really.
How we visit?
What's that?
Why we need to visit that place for sightseeing?
Well, you should go to St. Louis because it's fun. I don't really know why it's fun. There's nothing special there. The Arch. You can take a tour of the Budweiser, the original, like the first brewery in America. That's fun, actually. It's I don't know why, but it's fun to go from east to west St. Louis. They're on different sides of the Mississippi. There's a couple of interesting museums in St. Louis, actually. And there's just lots to do. They're constantly having a fair, an event, display. I don't know. There's something going on like every day. But I've been there like 2 or 3 times. There's always something going on. I don't know why. Okay. Anyway, go to St. Louis. Forget the rest of the state. There you go. Okay. Thanks a lot. I have to go.
Thank you.
Have a nice
Thank you.
Have a nice day.